Hey everybody, Pinstripe here, and welcome to the release of Pins Mod version 5, Nation's Assault, the modded ISO for the single player campaign of Hogs of War and the Unity game for Hogs, which is called Back to Base, which basically tells the story of the ISO in further detail. Now, if you're looking to avoid any kind of spoilers or details, then you can check out the links to the mods in the description. The download links will be there, the contents will be there. Everything is included, so the ISO itself, Back to Base, the Unity game, and additional documentation to assist you playing through the ISO. So for instance, there will be the full medal count. That won't include absolutely every detail of how to find all the medals, as I want to leave it up to the community to find out those things for themselves through play. But yeah, go ahead and check those out, as in this video we're going to be diving into what the single player mod can offer compared to previous mods, what is new, what is interesting, what is crazy, and what I have been doing essentially for the last year. First things first though, I do have to mention that there is an upcoming documentary in the works. In fact, it has been ongoing alongside me making this mod, because I've basically been documenting my progress, and that documentary will be a full behind the scenes look at the making of Pins Mod version 5, everything that went into it, everything that is included in my thought process when I am making this game, because the stuff I did for Back to Base in Unity was solely off my own back and learning basically as I went along, because I'm not a programmer, I'm nothing of the sort. I'm essentially a junior animator, if anything, slash game designer, slash voice actor, slash a whole bunch of other things really, because you kind of pick up responsibilities and learning as you go, and it's basically a culmination of everything that I have learned and put together within Unity, that includes gameplay, some elements of gameplay, third person as we expect in the regular turn-based Hogs of War, but of course Back to Base is a free roaming shooter. There are vehicles you can jump into, you can fly around, there are secrets to uncover, and it all encompasses the story of the single player campaign in the ISO in Nation's Assault. So okay, let's start with the single player campaign. So in this mod, as I said in the trailer, you can expect new maps, crazier and indeed harder enemies, so there's going to be some big health pools to deal with, and brand new handcrafted mission briefing screens. Alongside this, we have story elements taken from Pins Mod version 4, so you'll be hearing about characters and indeed coalitions that you have come to know from the previous story. So I've kind of cherry-picked the good bits from that and plunked it in here and tried to keep it more in line with the original story. So you'll be seeing Izzy, of course, you'll be hearing about Emperor Raven, and there's a whole bunch of other characters that you'll be seeing throughout. So for instance, when you do get to mission 25, all of the, I guess, nation leaders will be there, and you'll learn more about them in Back to Base and kind of what their, I guess, what their story is, what their background is, and what their aim is within this conflict. As I mentioned, the brand new mission briefing screens are one that I have created from scratch. Previously, I've been taking a kind of template, I guess, of the original briefing screens and modifying that. But this time I was like, you know what, we need a clean start, something fresh, something different to do with that space. So every single mission, including mission 8, has completely new mission briefing screens. And that is, of course, another thing. Mission 8 is now moddable, so it will be different, along with mission 3. Sadly, mission 24 is still the same, and mission 25 also has the same map, but things, of course, are moved around, things are different, so I've tried to make something new and fresh from that, because I think that's probably the most challenging part, really, of these mods, is the missions and maps that I can't necessarily change. Trying to make something new of them every single time is very, very tricky business, but I'm hoping that you guys will like the new mission briefing screens, can gain extra info and insight into each mission via those mission briefing screens, because that is essentially the extent that I can tell the story in the actual ISO. The mission name that you see on the roster screen and the mission briefing screen, that is the full extent of the story I can tell in the actual Hogs of War game. So that is why Back to Base exists, and that is why you'll be able to do so much and find out so much more of the story, because Back to Base has 7 levels which you progress through by going into different buildings. There are 3 buildings you can go into, which I know doesn't sound like much, but there's a HQ building, there's an intel station, and there is a barracks as well. You'll be seeing Major Grimley. He will be around. You go and talk to him basically when you want to progress into the next level. And with each level, it changes like Simpsons Hit and Run. So it's the same level every time, but the time of day changes, and of course the stuff around you changes. So it's not going to be the same every single time. Things will change. You'll have character interactions. You'll have sort of little stories going on between characters that you can, you know, walk up to them, see what's going on, see what they say. There are, of course, some of the voices from the original game that I've taken. I did plan to do some voice acting, but for the characters that you interact with around the level, but sadly I didn't really have time for that. There was a lot I didn't have time for, but as I said, most of that will be mentioned and questions will be answered in the upcoming documentary, which, as I said, is in the works. But I hope you guys enjoy the mod. It has been very much anticipated by the community, and I hope that it fulfills everyone's needs, I guess, because this year has been pretty sparse when it comes to modded content. But yeah, I hope it does the job. Because the documentary isn't out yet, I don't really feel like I can say that much about my process and stuff, because, as I said, everything will be answered in that full-length video. So until then, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Seeing as this is the release video, there's not really much else to say other than go and play it and give me all your feedback. The one thing I will mention is that the Back to Base game, it's not a AAA polish, so it's going to be a bit rusty at times. The frame rate may not be good when things are super cluttered, so if you're flying around in your plane and there's a lot going on, be prepared for the frame rate to maybe drop. Okay, so just brace your expectations, essentially, because my overall focus with Back to Base was telling the story, and you'll hear more about that going forward. I will be making more in-depth videos about the content within Back to Base going forward, so people can have more of an understanding of the characters within it, and indeed the characters within the ISO as well. But in the meantime, go ahead and play Pinstripe version 5. Let me know everything you have to say in the comments, and indeed on Discord, on Twitter, on Reddit, everything and anything. I am ready to hear what you guys have to say. What missions do you love? What missions do you hate? What enemies do you love? What enemies do you despise? Everything and anything. Let me know. I'll be waiting. And in the meantime, I will catch you all later for the next one.
Right, you putrid porker. You should be proud of your hogs. I've given you, 5 additional promotion points to decorate them with. Are you listening to a word I say? Repeat after me. Minefields are very bad things to wander into. Now, press your button and we will be the richest nation in the world. Just imagine, limitless swill supplies until the end of all time. Oh, God, don't mess it up.